All right, so today we are going to take a deep dive into habits.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, we're going to figure out how to break the bad ones.
Yeah.
How to build good ones.
Yes.
And specifically, we're going to be looking at this podcast episode called Breaking Bad Habits. Simple steps to build a better you.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. So hopefully we can pull out some really interesting points for everybody today.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the first things that this podcast talked about was the neuroscience of habit.
Okay.
Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
It points out that the basal ganglia in our brain is the area that is associated with habit formation. And every time we repeat a behavior, it basically creates a shortcut.
So it's like our brain is trying to be efficient.
Yes.
Like it's trying to just automate things so we don't have to think about it as much.
Exactly.
And that's probably why it's so hard to change.
Right. Because it's like, why do we want to go through all this mental energy to change something when we've got this like nice shortcut built?
Like our brains are lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
They just want to do what's easy.
Well, the podcast uses this great analogy of a well-worn path in the forest.
Okay.
So the more you walk that path, the deeper it gets.
Yeah.
Breaking a bad habit is like trying to forge a new trail through that forest, which takes a lot of
conscious effort.
Yes, conscious effort.
So you'd be like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. We're going this way now.
Totally.
So that makes total sense. But how do we actually start to like hack through those mental weeds?
Yes.
I know they talk about the habit loop.
Yes, they do.
In this episode.
They do. And they break it down using a really relatable example.
Okay.
Which is snacking when you're bored.
Okay.
So the cue is boredom.
Okay.
The routine is grabbing that bag of chips.
Oh, yeah.
And the reward is that temporary satisfaction.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Right. And they argue that identifying that cycle is the first step to break free.
I see, I see.
So you have to kind of notice it first.
Become aware.
Yes, become aware of it.
Yeah.
Before you can change it.
You know, I catch myself doing this thing where it's like late at night, even when I'm exhausted, I'm like scrolling on social media.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
But I think the cue is being in bed, like, I'm in bed, I'm ready to go to sleep.
Right.
And my routine is like, well, I pick up my phone.
Right.
And then the reward is, I guess, whatever little dopamine hit I get from.
Which is a classic example.
From seeing something interesting, I guess.
Totally. And the podcast actually suggests a few strategies to disrupt that habit loop.
Okay.
One is to change your environment.
Okay.
So if your phone is the problem, leave it in another room at night.
Right.
You know, if it's junk food, clear your pantry.
Make it harder to actually do the routine.
Exactly. Make the routine harder to execute.
Right.
You know?
I like that. Yeah. Removing the temptation altogether.
Yeah, just take it out of the equation.
The podcast also talks about procrastination.
Oh, yes.
Which I feel like is something we've all struggled with.
Absolutely.
Like at some point.
At some point in our lives, for sure.
Yeah.
And they actually challenge a common misconception.
Okay.
About procrastination.
Which is?
Instead of just saying, break tasks down into smaller chunks.
Right, yeah.
Which we've all heard before.
Yeah, we've all heard that.
Like 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
They go deeper.
Okay.
They argue that procrastination often stems from fear of failure.
Oh, interesting.
Or feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the task itself, it's about our mental approach to the task.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So breaking down the tasks is about making the process less daunting psychologically.
Yes.
So it's not just like a logistical thing. It's like a mental thing too.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
It is.
I'm starting to see why this podcast is so popular.
It's really insightful.
It's very insightful. Yeah. And did they talk about like celebrating small victories?
Yes.
I think I saw that somewhere.
They did. And they even cited research showing that positive reinforcement is much more effective than self-criticism when trying to change behavior.
So we should be nicer to ourselves, basically.
Yes, be kind to yourself.
Okay.
Celebrate the wins.
Give ourselves a little pat on the back when we do something good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even if it seems small.
Okay.
You know? It's like training your brain to associate those positive feelings with the new behavior, making it more likely to stick.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like white knuckling it and just like forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do.
It's about finding ways to make it enjoyable.
Right.
And rewarding.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So breaking bad habits is not just willpower.
No.
it's like understanding the psychology behind them.
Exactly.
And kind of strategically like rewiring our brains.
Yes.
It's really interesting.
It is fascinating.
Yeah. So what else did this podcast cover?
Well, after tackling those bad habits, they shifted gears to building better habits.
Okay.
And guess what their number one tip was?
Let me guess. Start small.
You got it.
Okay.
Start small.
We've heard that one before, but it's probably good advice.
It's true. And they debunked the myth that it takes 21 days to form a habit.
Oh, yeah.
That's not actually true.
I think we've all heard that before.
Yeah, research actually shows it can take anywhere from 21 to 66 days or even longer, depending on the complexity of the habit.
So patience is key.
Yes, patience is key.
Yeah.
Don't expect to change overnight.
Right.
You know.
I like that they are grounding their advice in actual science. This makes it feel much more credible.
Yeah, it's
not just like somebody's opinion.
Right, it's like actually...
They're like, here are the facts.
Here's the research.
This is why this works.
Yeah.
What other strategies did they recommend for building better habits?
One that really caught my attention was habit stacking.
Habit stacking, okay.
Yeah, so basically you piggyback a new habit onto an existing one.
Oh, okay.
For example, if you want to start meditating.
Right.
You could do it right after you brush your teeth each morning.
I like that.
Right.
It's like using an existing routine as a trigger
Exactly.
to do the new thing.
Like a mental trigger.
Yeah.
You know, you already have that habit in place.
Right.
So you're just kind of adding on to it.
Right.
Instead of trying to create something totally new.
I could even see myself like meditating after my morning coffee or something like that.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
What about you? Do you use habit stacking?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I always drink a glass of water before my morning coffee.
Oh, nice.
It's small, but I feel like it helps me stay hydrated.
Yeah.
And feel more energized.
I love that.
You know, throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
The podcast actually provided several examples of habit stacking.
Okay.
Which I thought made it feel much more practical.
Right, yeah.
Not just like this abstract concept.
Like, okay, this is how actual people use it.
Exactly.
Okay, starting small habit stacking.
Yeah.
Building a toolkit here.
Totally.
For better habits. What else did they discuss?
They talked about the importance of tracking your progress.
Okay.
So it provides a visual representation of your effort.
Right.
And it creates a sense of accountability.
Yeah, I could see how that would be motivating.
They even suggested using habit tracker apps. But they emphasized that a simple notebook or calendar can work just as well.
Yeah, I feel like it's like those fitness trackers.
Yes.
Where it's like you see how many steps you've taken.
That's
and it's like,
good.
Oh, I feel good.
It gives you that little dopamine hit of progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And did they talk about support systems at all?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They highlighted research showing that people are far more likely to succeed with habit change.
Okay.
When they have a supportive community.
Right.
It could be a friend, a family member, a therapist,
yeah,
or even an online group.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
Like having a workout buddy makes a big difference for me.
Yeah.
Like we kind of keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
And we celebrate each other's successes.
Exactly.
It makes it more fun.
It does, yeah.
It's less about like
willpower.
Yeah, just like forcing yourself to do something.
It's like having a cheerleader in your corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like it's not just individual strategies, but it's like a combination.
Yes, that's what they emphasize.
Okay.
They say that successful habit change often involves a combination of approaches.
It's like finding what works for you.
Yes.
Experimenting and being patient with the process.
Exactly.
So it's not like one size fits all.
No.
Which I like.
Yeah.
It feels more realistic.
It does.
And sustainable.
Yes.
I'm liking this deep dive.
Really, this podcast episode.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's clear that it's based on solid research.
Yeah.
And practical strategies, not just hype.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like fluffy self-help stuff.
No.
Like actionable advice.
Yes, very actionable.
Yeah.
All right, so we covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We talked about the habit loop.
Right.
We talked about starting small strategies like habit stacking.
Right.
Finding a support system.
Yes.
Where do we go from here?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve into some of the more nuanced techniques that this podcast covered for breaking bad habits and solidifying those positive changes.
All right.
Get ready for some serious mind hacks.
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Okay, so we are back and we are ready for more habit hacking, I think.
Yes, more mind hacks.
So in the last part, we were talking about the habit loop.
Right.
Starting small, habit stacking.
Yes.
And building a support system.
Exactly.
Like all these great tools to help us build better habits.
Right.
But what other mind hacks did this podcast uncover?
Well, one that I thought was really clever was temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling, what is that?
It's basically pairing something you want to do with something you need to do.
Okay.
So, for example,
give me an example.
The podcast mentioned only letting yourself watch your favorite TV show while you're on the treadmill.
Oh, I see.
Or only listening to a podcast you love while you're doing chores.
So you're like tricking your brain into associating something enjoyable with a task that maybe isn't as fun.
Exactly. I can see that working.
Right. Like you're kind of making it more appealing to do the thing you need to do.
Yeah.
And they even cited a study where people who use temptation bundling were more likely to exercise regularly.
So it's not just like a theory.
Yeah.
It's actually
backed by research.
Proven to work.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. What other strategies did they talk about?
They talked about a technique called implementation intentions.
Implementation intentions.
It sounds kind of complicated.
It does sound kind of complicated, yeah.
But it's actually really simple.
Okay.
It's basically about creating a very specific plan for when and where you'll perform your new habit.
I see.
So instead of just saying, I'm going to meditate more, you would say, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes every morning right after I wake up.
So it's very specific.
Exactly. You're removing any ambiguity.
Yeah.
So you're not like, oh, should I do it now? Should I do it later? It's like, no, you're doing it then.
It's already decided.
Yeah, you've already made the decision.
Okay.
So you're basically automating the decision-making process.
Right.
Which reduces the chance of procrastination.
Pre-programming your brain for success.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Did they discuss any other, like, mental tricks?
They talked about habit tracking.
Habit tracking? Oh, yeah, we touched on that earlier. Yeah. Yeah, we did.
But, like, why is that so effective?
They argue that tracking your progress visually, whether it's in a journal, a spreadsheet, or an app, it creates a sense of accomplishment and motivates you to keep going.
Yeah.
It's like a visual reminder of your progress.
I see.
You know, and it helps you identify patterns and adjust your strategy if needed.
I can see that.
You know, like if you're not making progress, maybe you need to tweak your approach.
Yeah.
And they even suggest using habit tracking as a way to celebrate small victories.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like marking off a day on your tracker.
Right.
It's a tangible reminder that you're moving in the right direction.
I see.
You know, it's a little reward.
Yeah.
In itself.
Okay, so we've got temptation bundling, implementation intentions, habit tracking. We're building like an arsenal of habit hacking tools.
We are.
It's awesome.
It's so
And we can't forget about the power of environment and social support.
Right. That's essential.
Which we talked about earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
They really emphasize that successful habit change is often about creating an ecosystem that supports your goals.
So it's not just all in your head.
No.
It's like you have to have...
It's about setting yourself up for success.
Right. The right environment.
Yes.
Yeah, I see.
Both mentally and physically.
Okay. So what were your biggest takeaways from this episode so far?
For me, it was the emphasis on the why behind these strategies. Like understanding the psychology behind habit formation.
Makes it feel less daunting.
Yeah, it makes it feel less
overwhelming and more like
a puzzle to be solved. You know?
I like that.
Yeah.
And I also like that they back up their advice with scientific research.
I love that about this podcast.
It's not just like fluffy self-help.
It's evidence-based.
Yeah. It's like, here are the facts.
Yeah.
This is why this works.
This is how it works.
Yeah. And did they talk about setbacks at all?
They did. Yeah.
Okay.
They acknowledge that there will be setbacks.
Right.
And that's okay.
It's like being human.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to slip up.
Right.
And that's fine.
Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Learn from it and get back on track.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they remind us that change takes time and effort.
Right. It's a journey.
It is a journey.
It's not a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
It's about cultivating a mindset of continuous growth and improvement.
Okay. Yeah, so this deep dive has been...
It's been great.
Really insightful. We've learned so much about the science behind habit formation, strategies for breaking bad habits, tips for building better ones.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, this whole exploration, I'm curious about something. You know, we've talked about all these techniques for manipulating our habits.
Yeah.
Like, is there a danger in overthinking it?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
And honestly, It's not something the podcast explicitly addressed.
Okay.
But I think it's valid.
Yeah.
We don't want to get so caught up in analyzing our every move
right.
that we become paralyzed by indecision.
Yeah, like sometimes I think it's best to just
do it.
Pick a strategy and experiment.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the key is to find a balance.
Okay.
Between intentionality and flexibility.
I see.
We need to be thoughtful about our approach.
Okay.
But we also need to be willing to adapt and adjust.
If something's not working, try something else.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see.
It's about finding what works best for you and your unique circumstances.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we covered a lot of ground in this episode.
A lot of ground.
We explored a wide range of strategies for habit transformation, but our exploration isn't over yet.
No, it's not.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Where we'll wrap up our discussion and leave you with some thought-provoking questions.
Sounds good.
To ponder, don't go anywhere. All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into habits.
It's gone by fast.
I know, right? We've covered so much ground.
We have.
We've talked about the habit loop, temptation bundling,
implementation intention,
habit tracking, support systems.
A lot.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But, you know, as we kind of wrap up here,
I
think it's good to ask ourselves, like, what does this all mean for the listener?
Right. Like, how do we actually apply?
Yeah, like, how do we take this
knowledge
and actually make a difference in our lives?
Exactly.
So if you could give, like, one piece of advice to somebody who's like, I'm ready, I want to build better habits, what would it be?
I would say start small.
Start small, okay.
And be patient.
Yeah.
You know, don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight.
Right.
Pick one habit you want to change.
Okay.
Break it down into manageable steps.
Yeah.
Focus on consistency over perfection.
Consistency over perfection. I like that.
Yeah, you don't have to be perfect.
It's like progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
Like we were saying before.
You know, just keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Even if you make mistakes.
Even when you mess up. It's okay.
Back on track.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly, so just take that first step.
It's all about progress.
Yes.
Not perfection.
Exactly.
And habit change, it's a lifelong journey.
It is. It's not a destination.
It's not like you get there.
You arrive.
Yeah, and you're done.
Right, it's an ongoing process.
It's about constantly
evolving.
Yeah, growing, improving.
Yeah.
So you're like the architect of your own habits.
Exactly.
Like you're shaping your behaviors.
In a way that aligns with...
to be who you want to be.
Yes. Your values and goals.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool when you think about it.
It is pretty cool.
So we've come to the end of our deep dive into habits.
It's been fun.
And I hope everybody listening has found this helpful.
Me too.
I know I've learned a lot.
I have as well.
I think the main takeaway here is that we all have the power.
We do.
To change our habits.
Anyone can do it.
It's not easy.
No, it takes effort.
But it's possible.
And it's so worth it.
It's so worth it.
Yeah.
So if there's one habit you want to change.
What is it?
Yeah, what is it?
Think about it.
What's one tiny step
that you can take today?
You can take today to get started.
To get started on that journey.
Write it down, make a plan.
And take action.
And remember,
you've got this.
We all have the power to shape our own destiny.
We do.
One good habit at a time.
One step at a time.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time.